So let's go on to topic number 3, which is climate change. Miggy, take over.
Well, let's just start with we're basically talking about how climate change has always been a topic in history, especially in the last like I don't know, 50, 60 years. And there's always something happening. There's always some sort of end of world discussion, something that they deem that we need to be fixing right away through our pockets. They increase our taxes, and regardless of if their predictions turn out to be true or if their predictions change, taxes don't get cut. In fact, there's just a new problem where taxes increase. So we have a clip here that kind of runs down the past predictions of what they were saying at the time, and then we'll talk more about what's happening nowadays and what the theory is today.
Yeah.
Never came true? It's quite a fascinating journey when we look back and see what we believed would be the end of our world. Turn the
Can we
clock
make a
back
big
to the
screen?
1960s.
No.
The prediction of the day was that we would run out of oil in 10 years, a fear that sent ripples throughout the world, leading governments to impose new taxes, supposedly to fund alternatives and save the remaining oil. Fast forward to the present, and it's clear that this prediction, while alarming, never came to pass. Next stop, the 1970s. The threat this time, an impending ice age expected to arrive in 10 years. Again, the panic button was hit and taxes were raised to supposedly fund research and solutions to this chilling prediction. Yet, the feared ice age never came, and those taxes, well, they never left. Moving on to the 1980s, the buzzword was acid rain. The narrative was that acid rain was going to destroy all our crops in 10 years. The solution? More taxes, of course, this time to combat this new environmental threat. However, a decade later, our crops were still standing and the acid rain prediction was a distant memory. Next, we hit the 1990s. The ozone layer was the topic on everyone's lips, with claims it would be destroyed in 10 years. Cue the introduction of more taxes to fight this new menace. Yet here we are decades later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. That is actually crazy.
You know?
So now, what's the topic now? Carbon tax.
Carbon
Wow.
tax, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember around 2006 when Al Gore came out with the documentary, The Inconvenient Truth, and they played it in like all schools. I don't know if you guys seen that documentary, but in almost every class they played it, or at least made every school talk about climate change and do presentations on it. And basically, Gore, just like the pattern that they had in all these other predictions, was that global warming is going to cause death, going to cause homelessness, going to cause all these problems. And it's actually the policies that we make because of these climate change problems. These policies are what's causing, homelessness, is causing death, just like the LA fires. I mean, they'll call me a conspiracy theorist for saying that, but it just doesn't make sense how there's always these big problems, and the mainstream media is always making it seem like, okay, this is what the experts say, and the experts are always saying it's global warming, and that's it. There's no other theory, and there's no other discussion. So that's my problem with it.
Right. And all the taxes, like that video said, they all stood in place. None of them left. But all the problems and everything never came to true. So where did all that money go? Why are we still paying all these things? Where's all this going? Making us weaker because we don't have the power and the money we have in our pockets. Weakening us, strengthening them.
Yep.
And it's all a very slow and slippery slope. Like, it's so slow that we can't tell as it's happening. And us that are working 9 to 5s most people do not have the time to get informed the way like we try to, for example. There's no time. People are running families. The only thing they can stress is what their kids are eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Crazy.
And on the bright side, nowadays we have powerful people and famous people that are pushing back against that theory. Even like scientists that are pushing back against that theory, and they're finally able to speak out. Now, it's hard to see it with all the news outlets and all the people that actually support climate change and follow that nonsense and reiterate it over and over again. But we also have a couple clips of the first one is Vivek, and the other one is a scientist that used to work for Greenpeace with the opposite perspective that I think it's important to play so people can hear, it's not just us saying this shit, right?
Yeah, that one is actually pretty important. He's talking about the effects of how we believe it's like the misinformation of how we think carbon is actually bad, but yeah, it's really good. Really good
Is
point.
that there's a clip? There's a clip?
Yeah, I'm
We
about
got
to pull
two
it up.
clips,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm about to
put
pull
up.
it up.
So the
Wait,
first one is
so
important
you guys
'cause
didn't
it's-
get reimbursed for the taxes, bro? I got my shit back. I got
Yeah,
a check.
You take 1,000 from our. Well, this is obviously not a fact, but take 1,000 from our pockets, but give us back 100.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of math that's not mathing.
All right, ready?
It's not mathing at all. Go.
As Republicans, I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this.
Yo, put them
climate change
hold on,
agenda
stop. Yeah.
Is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Damn.
Bro, I just got goosebumps because he just killed it.
All the NPCs were mad at him because he was speaking
Yeah,
facts.
Oh, yeah.
all the NPCs.
He said what no other politician had the balls to say. The only one that is close to saying anything like that is Trump, and that's why he gets so much hate. But
And it's amazing. It's amazing the power that came to be. Trump with Elon, with Vivek, with Kennedy Jr. All these guys, I'm really hoping they all stick to the words that they got elected for, and I really hope they make the change that they really were won the election for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the next clip goes a little bit more in depth, right?
On its head the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant and somehow dangerous, when in fact it is the most important nutrient for all life on Earth, and without it this would be a dead planet. So I say not only is carbon dioxide good, it is essential, and it's a good thing that we are putting some more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it was running low before we came along. If we had definitive proof that CO2 was causing serious problems and we could prove it, don't you think they would write that down on a piece of paper somewhere so people could read it? They don't have definitive proof, period, in science. And I know that the scientific method has not been applied in such a way as to prove that carbon dioxide is causing the Earth to warm.
I think in a few years, say 50 years from now, people go, that was a really stupid period in our history when we tried to change all our energy policies to cut this gas.
I am firmly of the belief that the future will show that this whole hysteria over climate change was a complete fabrication. One of my missions.
Now
He's
that
not
was
wrong.
that was a
not-
Greenpeace co-founder, Dr. Patrick Moore. If anybody wants to look him
Greenpeace.
up.
He's not wrong. I'm telling you, carbon dioxide is one of the most necessary things in our atmosphere, or plants wouldn't be able
And-
to thrive.
What they
and create
feed. That's what
oxygen
they
that we
feed. That's
breathe.
literally their food. Saying we don't.
And once
saying
again,
we have an excess
once-
of it. It's
These guys are yet again going with fear mongering because they're pushing information on misinformed people because no time to look into these deeper to make their own understanding of it. And once again, the people who are eating this information are misinformed.
bro.
They're not able
Also,
to think, so they're making emotional decisions, emotional acceptance.
Also, if let's say it is that it's carbon monoxide is a problem, and they try to tie it to us to the point where they make a carbon tax. If we are the problem, they're crazy because the amount of carbon monoxide we contribute to society is less than 1%. The biggest contributors to the carbon monoxide are actually cows.
Dioxide, but yeah,
Yeah, carbon dioxide.
monoxide.
So it's we don't even contribute 1% of the actual,
Yeah, but I guess they're gonna push back on what you just said. That they're gonna say, "Oh, why are the cows causing that? Oh, because
Well,
we're slaughtering them."
because it's a
not
cycle.
necessarily.
They
so,
eat and they release it in their
so
poop.
they when they release gas, they're releasing methane gas, right? It's a total carbon content in the atmosphere, which causes the blanket of warming, right? So if you look at the Earth, and then you have the atmosphere, if it's an invisible layer of all this carbon that's being held in, as light passes through it, it's refracting off, going different directions, and staying in there, and basically blanketing it and keeping it hotter and hotter and hotter. But as life goes on, right, the carbon levels, right, in the atmosphere are ever changing. We're consuming it, plants are consuming it, organisms are consuming it.
Bro,
right?
that's how nature works. Nature
The
is
whole-
smart enough to create a cycle that whatever you feed on also feeds whatever you need it. So the cows eat the grass, then they feed the grass, and then the
Symbiotic relationship.
It's like that. So them saying it's unnatural, the levels, it's like, no, you're fighting with nature. It's like this whole agenda that they want to fight with what's normal. They want to change what's normal. It's like, no, bro, don't fight with nature.
They just need people to think that basically the world is going to go to an end if we don't listen to them, right? So that's all it is at the end of the day. If we think
tax, so let's tax.
fine, yeah, exactly. If we think everything's going to be fine, then relax. Like, why do we got to put so much importance on this when there's homelessness, economic issues, blah, blah, blah. But if the world's going to end and shit's going to go, south, then we got to do something about it now, and we got to let them raise our taxes and make our whole situation worse.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but let's remind people that the English went to war. I'm pretty sure, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Went to war with the government, off of tea tax, and I think it was what 1% or 2% or a few percent, and now we're paying in Canada like 35-45% tax on our stuff.
Yep.
That's how far these guys created fear amongst the times, where now we're just accepting 45 and we're about to accept another few percent in carbon tax.
Insane.
Slow and steady, slow and slippery to where we don't feel it. But along the way, once you look back into history, if the history is not misconstrued, you will understand how far these guys have gotten by just one step at a time. And people being misinformed, being too busy to understand what's actually going on. Propaganda.